The case of Afrika Bambaataa and the Zulu nation, that's a case that historically, this is the most crazy stuff, the most heinous, the most calculated crime committed by someone, anybody in the 20th and the 21st century. This man named Afrika Bambaataa transversed centuries. He carried this spree, this crime spree, and his reasons are not even reasons he's telling you, but people around him are guessing. They playing the guessing game. They saying this guy was on a power trip. He wanted more power, and he got together with some people who gave him the idea that collecting sperm, sucking on other people's penises, especially the penis of the youth, is going to make him more powerful, more known, more popular. God damn it, is this it? I mean, this guy didn't even get to be president of the United States. If we're talking about power, this guy didn't even get to be like a Bill Gates, okay? He just Afrika Bambaataa, and me as a woman who grew up in this country. I grew up in New York. I grew up in Brooklyn. Okay, as a woman who grew up in this country, okay, I've always been hearing about this guy. I've always been borderline, I would say frequenting, if that's a word that we use here. M'a fréquenté moun qui nan relation avec Zulu Nation, but I was never down with the Zulu Nation as a younger person. Recently, about 2 years ago, I was invited to come to a Zulu Nation meeting, and lucky for me, the energy of that day, man, woo! Talk about energy of that day, because that day I ended up going to the Maddox Church on Atlantic Avenue in Brooklyn, and that's another group of people that got some shady energy, and they work in cliques and they work in groups. So the case of Afrika Bambaataa is a reflection of Black power in the USA. It's not saying that all men and all peoples in the USA who are affiliated with movements of so-called liberation or so-called empowerment, and they are that way. But what it is indeed a reflection, and that's why these people have been trying their darnest to keep this thing under the hat, to keep the lid closed. Who wants to disclose all that bullshit about themselves? And this man picked up all these negative habits, all these bad habits. He became a sick vulture, a sick animal, an enemy for his own people. That's what Afrika Bambaataa became. That's what he's been. And the reasons why in my first mention, I say that he ran with the cowards. The reason why I say that is because any person in this cipher, and many persons in this cipher knew, and they kept their mouth shut. So what other reasons do you have for having kept your mouth shut except that you're a fucking coward? You're greedy, needy, coward. Because if anything at all, you could have just told everybody else. You could have just asked this guy to resign. You could have plotted a silent assassination on this motherfucker. It's so much that the Zulu Nation members could have done. It's so much that the community in Bronx River could have done, but they didn't. Okay? And because they didn't, we have to name them, because the people knew. They heard rumors. Most of them heard rumors, but the people close to him, they knew. So they are accomplices in this crime spree where this vulture, this animal is going and attacking his own people for the sake of his own power. Okay? So what happens when a grown man takes the anger has to, because I don't want to come across angry doing these because basically I'm doing commentaries about this topic because it has touched me so deeply. It has bothered me so deeply, and it has given me the proof that I needed to know that what I had been feeling all along has been correct. I'm not a crazy bitch. Because that's what these men call you when you catch them in the fucking act. That's what they call you when you catch them. They call you names, and this is how the actions of Afrika Bambaataa has affected the women. In more ways than you can even think, this has affected the women. In more ways than you could ever think. Because the men, in order to cover up the shit that's been happening to them, because they've been living in shame. I feel so bad for them. I do, my heart, my heart. My heart for these men, these victims. I'm not talking about the men who are willingly going and sucking this guy's dick and letting this guy suck him off. That is not for whom my bell tolls, okay? Okay? We have kids, and I have a young man there. I have a son that age. I have a son, and a few years back he was 11, and then he was 12, and then he was 13, and then he was 14. Watching the growth of a man is a privilege for me as a mother, as a woman. So there are things I understand about the growth process of a man that I would not have understood 10 years ago. So having understood that process, and seeing how this guy came and intervened and interfered and suspended that process and sabotaged that process. Me as a woman, and I'm not even gonna brag, dude, 40 years ago, I wasn't even alive 40 years ago. But suppose I was alive, and this is just supposition, and I'm allowed to suppose because I have creative license. But suppose 45 years ago when I wasn't even alive and somebody came up to me and said, because they call him Bam, I don't even know why motherfuckers are giving this motherfucker nickname. Yo, they are calling him nicknames when they're referring to him. Anybody who does something so cool to you, you drop the motherfucking names, nigga. I need to retrain you motherfucking niggas on how to get your mind back right. Drop the motherfucking nickname for this assassin. Lance Taylor, assassin, criminal. Okay, and I'm talking in disgust because this is something that's been bothering me and I need to let this go. So suppose that 45 years ago, somebody tell me, yo, I suspect this motherfucker's touching boys. Just a suspicion, right? Me, I would go find out. I would go find out if the suspicion is a reality. I would take my time to find out because I care about young boys. I care about young men. I care about men. I care about me too. And I care about other people. So that's the point. The point is you care about other people. If you're going to call yourself a fucking community, and that's why I've been denying this fucking movement since I came into my mind that this movement was all about bullshit, and this movement of liberation, supposedly consciousness, all these fucking leaders, they're about bullshit. They're leading us astray. Okay, basically. So if I had found out that this guy was up to that, that type of years ago, and I wasn't even alive, this is just a supposition, hell yeah, I would go find out. And once I would find out that he was indeed hurting young boys, I would make it my point to call the man and let them know. And I would make it my point to assure that the man guaranteed me his assassination. And I would make sure of that. That's the kind of woman I am. Okay, so for the women who are part of the Zulu nation, who have heard of this atrocity, who have heard of this calamity, abomination, they have heard. And for the men who confirm what the women have heard, how dare you look in the mirror? How dare you look in the fucking mirror after you sold out your people for crumbs? I don't see y'all niggas flashing around, living large like you're supposed to. 50 years of getting your anus plucked and you still filled with sadness, motherfuckers. Because when a black woman shows the true feelings of Mother Nature, because Mother Nature reacts through us. We are a reflection of Mother Nature. So when the men are fucked in nature, so are the women. We are all interactive beings. Okay? That also includes the animals too, motherfuckers, who are destroying the planet. Okay? We are all interactive beings. We are all interdependent. Even the spider dog, even the little pieces of ants, they fall into the cycle of life. It's the cycle of life, niggas. When you destroy one life, you destroy all lives, motherfuckers. Okay? So when a black woman takes her time to reflect Mother Nature's sadness, because it is indeed a sadness, that a man can take it upon himself. And I'm not going to say one man, because Afrika Bambataa, Lance Taylor was not alone. Okay, for the people who knew and kept their trap shut, they were also in this movement where he was destroying young lives. And when he destroyed the men, he destroyed the women, because the men in their shame, they came back to us with slurs. They came back beating that pussy up, and we know the shit wasn't right. We know the shit was not right. Who beat the fucking pussy up, dog? Only men who have been destroyed. And in an effort to grab the little bit of power, they're gonna come to us and they're gonna demand us to give up that power. And that's what happened, motherfucking Lance Taylor. That's what the fuck happened. Okay? And if you look at the trend of hip hop, and I have known this shit, I have been feeling that shit. And when I have encountered the products of Afrika Bambaataa, I've known it. And in these products, instead of them saying, sis, I apologize, I have been wronged, I've been hurt, I've been hurting, it's been a process, it's been hard to get hard. Instead of them confessing, they turn around and they turn around to destroy me. They turn around to accuse me. They turn around to describe me in epithets no woman like me should ever be mentioned. And that's what has been happening in the past 30, 40 years, motherfuckers. When Afrika Bambaataa destroyed the men, he destroyed the women. Because the men make the women too. Whether they are straight, gay, wayward, bisexual, dipping in the fucking mud, wherever they are, they reflect us. We reflect each other. Niggas. Okay? And that's what this motherfucker did. The crime he committed extends beyond that fucking apartment in Brooks River. Everybody talking about motherfucking Brooks River. Brooks. I ain't never been akin to the Bronx, New York. I grew up in Brooklyn. By the time I got to college, I had friends in the Bronx. I went to the Bronx, St. Mary's a couple of times. Took the fucking 2 train already. It's a hike. When you live in BK, you live at the last stop of the 2 train, which is where I grew up, and you head into the last stop of the 2 train in the Bronx. I ain't fucking with the Bronx like that when I was a young girl. Fuck that shit. Okay? And you know, the Bronx is beautiful. It's more room. It's less crowded than Brooklyn. Well, now it's crowded because the Africans done got y'all, and all the Dominicans done got y'all, the Bronx. But back then, before the Haitian so-called Dominican invasion, okay, and before the African invasion, because the Bronx is now invaded, you know what I mean? So, and before the invasion of the gay population, because the Bronx has been invaded over the recent 20 years, the Bronx has been invaded by gay young white men, gay young white women, so-called hipsters, and Haitians, so-called Dominicans, and Africans, you know, selling that shea butter, that cocoa butter. Okay, so before that, okay, there was no community. So basically, you're living in a place where it's wild. It was always wild. It's always been wild. The adults are not monitoring the place because they have problems that they've brought on their own selves, okay? Most part they've brought on their own selves. I don't care how much chemical was sprayed in that area to deter these people. I don't care how much drug was put in the streets. If these people made a commitment to themselves to stay faithful to themselves and to grow in their communities, it could have been done. Okay, but the tragedy has happened. We cannot cry over spilled milk. But ain't nobody gonna fucking throw egg white in my fucking face, okay? And tell me something other than that. If you throw eggs in my face, you throw eggs in my face. And nobody gonna throw eggs in my face and call it anything else, okay? So, with regard to these men and the era that they were growing in, they had other things in their mind. So Afrika Bambaataa, he built a movement of limelight. He built a movement that would attract young men in the C factor, because they wanted to be down. They wanted to be hip. They wanted to be popular. And according to one of them, Afrika Bambaataa was doing this as in satanic practice. The more sperm he drew from young men, the more power he said he got. You know, and so I'm going to keep talking about this. I'm going to keep breaking this down in a woman's perspective, because this is a masculine issue. It's an issue that happened in the men population, but it just so happens that this issue has ruined the women population. That's why I'm talking about it, because it matters.